Here we are. So, just like to say thanks a million. So we're absolutely delighted and honoured to have Senator Eileen Flynn online with us today. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you've had to leave an Oireachtas committee meeting early to join us. That's how important we are down here in Matt Talbot and Ballyfermot. Just to give you a little bit of background on Eileen, that Eileen joined the Seanad last June, am I right? Having received the Taoiseach's nomination. So I asked her the other day, are you the youngest senator in the Seanad? And she's not, but you must be one of the youngest senators. Not only that, she's a working mom, so that's quite an achievement as well. And she's also, are you the first senator to come out of Ballyfermot?
Yeah, there's actually a Fianna Fáil Senator Catherine Ardara, but she's not originally a Ballyfermot woman, if that makes any sense. I think she's living in some nice place in D4 or something.
Oh, right, okay, but you're a true blue. So not only that, you're also the first member of the Irish traveller community to serve in the Oireachtas, so congratulations. So again, thanks a million for coming to talk to us today, but rather than me going on, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you are, just a little bit of background on you.
Well, hi everyone. First, my name is Eileen Flynn. I was born and reared in the local Halton site in Ballyfermot, Lavery Park. And look, I want to say, people have their own minds made up around Lavery and stuff, and some of that is very positive, and unfortunately some of it is negative as well. So for me, I lived in number 7, loved being I don't know if anybody knows the boys from around, my whole life was all around freedom, working in and living along with the local youth service. And I don't know if people are familiar with the family base. I'm friends along with many people in Ballyfermot. Actually, there's about 14 of us who are great friends from wider Ballyfermot. And again, like just that sense of community of being in Lavery, but also that community outside of Lavery that I've been closely connected with from a very young age. Got involved in local youth forums, involved with doing youth exchanges, and just being at the heart of what was going on for people for young people at the time in Ballyfermot. And to say I went to St. Gabriel's primary school. Lovely, great experience. Nothing too major to write home about. Also went to St. Dominic's Secondary School, and we all can be troublemakers, or we all can be an at-risk young person if you want. And when I was in school, I got to spend it 8 times, and I was threatened to be expelled. And for me, some of that behaviour came from like losing my mother at a young age when I was 10 years of age. And then, just feeling some of that prejudice and some of that discrimination and rejection in the world as well. So that's where some of that behaviour issues came from. But again, I had a very positive relationship with the women in my class, with the young women at the time in the school as a whole, and got on well on with some of the teachers I didn't get on so well with. And again, I had a lovely experience in St. Dominic's School, even to the way of sometimes if I didn't have lunch money to get a lend of a fiver off the teacher and give it back to her the following week, and used to babysit to be able to give that money back if I did get a lend off the teacher. And it was those kind of little stuff that got me through school, because the teacher having the trust to give you a lend of a fiver, the teacher having the trust to take you out and to believe in you as a person. But when I got to 5th year, I started changing my attitude towards education, and really wanted an education. So I went off and did the DEBs, and I remember young children on the site. And they're not children now, they're actually married today. And when I say that, I mean they're 18, 19, and the young kids thought I was getting married and thought Sally was getting married because of the Debs, the young children has never seen it before. So I went to I did a Trinity Access course, and really going through education was giving me something to do, you know, instead of going to turn into the bottle or turn into drugs as well, you know. So I went to did an access course in Trinity College, and you know, I didn't feel Trinity College was a place for me. It was a strange setting, and I won't lie, I didn't do extreme well in it. I completed, you know, I did LCA Leaving Cert, and again, I did really good in that, and I completed Trinity College, although I didn't pass with flying colours. It was about completion, it was about seeing something through. Then I went to Ballyfermot College for 2 years, and I just loved it. Ballyfermot College, loved like the good sense of, if you want to say, you know, just that whatever normal is, but that normal like connection in the college. It wasn't a big university. You could go and get a cup of tea. You could, you know, it was just a lovely setting. And again, if you didn't have the price saved lunch money, you could owe it, you know, that kind of way. So it was a good setting. It was really good. I loved the Ballyfermot College. I did a lot of one-to-one work along with some of the tutors there, and it was just great experience for me. Doing some people may undermine the PLC course. I don't believe that we should be undermining it, because you know, we all have to find ourselves, and life is a journey. Like, you just don't, you know, you just don't go and wake up the next morning. Like me, I wanted to be a nurse, and that didn't work out for me, you know. So because of the having, say, biology, the biology to go with it, I didn't do biology in school, and then just looked for different paths. And I was qualified to be an SNA, qualified to work in the nursing home, really. And I went for a job in the nursing home in Chapel Lizard. And while I was brilliant down placement, they didn't know where I was from, you know. And I didn't put down my address for placement or anything. And I was really good, and I, you know, I come from a very religious family. I knew how to say the rosary with the older women that wanted someone to say the rosary with them. I brought a lot to the nursing home, and unfortunately, when I applied for a job, I put down my address, and I didn't get the job really because of my address. It wasn't nothing to do with the experience. It seemed how good I was on the ground, you know, and I think it was just the fear of probably never having a member of the traveller community working with them before. And so that kind of disheartened me an awful lot. And I went then to work in a national organisation in 2011, 2012. And we were in the middle of a recession, and it was a really hard time to work in a national organisation, and around funding and stuff. It was just tough. And so with that, then in that job, my father passed away with cancer, which was very, very tough. And then I gave up in the whole care, wanting to be a carer and stuff after seeing him dying and wanting to even do nursing. So I took out a year and went back then to Maynooth University. And Maynooth was again a very sociable college. There's no us and them in Maynooth. I enjoyed Maynooth. It was lovely campus as well, and that place where you feel that you're part of something. You know, it's really important to feel that you're part of something. So I completed the degree, and you know, I actually got good marks in the degree, but I was at that point in my life, I was 25 years of age, where I didn't care about the marks. It was just about getting the piece of paper, because I don't believe a piece of paper defines who you are. However, it's just about being as the person beside you in the room by having the degree. So it's a bit like a driving theory test, you know, a degree. Like, if a guard stops you, he's not going to say to you, did you pass by did you pass by 45 or did you pass by 35? You know, that kind of way. Nobody really asks you. So once you have it, you know. And again, it was around completion. So continued activism work on many different issues around homeless, same-sex marriage, women's equality, equality for people in working class areas that come from economic disadvantaged areas. So I've always been, it was just that passion in me to be an activist, you know, an activist for a better social change and trying to be part of a better Ireland, if you want, and a better Ireland, not just for travellers, but for everybody, you know. And during the course of Minute opened up my eyes to not only inequalities that, say, travel communities suffer on a daily basis, but also people from economic disadvantaged backgrounds, people from other ethnic minority groups, you know. And like this time last year, February last year, I decided to run for the seat in the Shannon. And basically, John Campbell, who works with Thomas Pringle, a local TD here, he would have known some of the work that I've done over the years. And he approached me last February saying, would you go for it? There's a seat there. And basically, I went for it because that seat was there. And that's how I seen it was, I was just as good as anybody else running, you know. So I missed out by a vote and a half. I came in, there were 20 candidates, and I came in, I think it was 6th place. And then there were 11 seats, and I came in 6th place, which was really good in the Shannon vote, like extreme good. Basically, I got 76 first preference votes, and unfortunately, you know, has like, you know, the politicians who was able to get in before, like, climb over, were all from parties, and then there were one independent that's in there many years and stuff, you know, and they knew about the second votes and the importance of getting seconds, and I didn't, you know. I was a little bit naive to the fact of getting the second preference vote. So the second votes left me down, and it meant other candidates was able to get over in that way. So that obviously set me back from feeling, oh shit, like you know, that's it, like I put myself up for something. And it's horrible feeling in your belly when you fail, you know, and when you're used to, if you want to say, probably like some people are used to failing, you know, some people are used to being rejected and stuff. So again, there were light at the end of the tunnel, because the Taoiseach obviously had 11 nominees to choose, and basically is they usually choose people from say the two parties or the party in government, obviously, you know, and then probably one or two people from civil society. And I was honoured to be that person that the Taoiseach nominated, you know, and I'm very grateful for it. But for the length I'd been in the Shannon, I have brought a lot of stuff to the floor, for Ballyfermot as a whole community, but also for working class communities, for traveller community, and for other ethnic minority groups. And I think it's so important of, like, you know, if we want equality, that we can't say we just want equality for one group of people and not for all. And being a traveller woman, born and reared in Ballyfermot, educated me an awful lot, you know, that kind of way. And like now, as a woman of 31 years of age, living in Donegal with my partner and my child, you know, how do you put it? You really see the world, like, you're down to earth to the world. And I can give an example of that. We were doing I was at a meeting a few weeks ago, and there were, if you want, ministers were there, and other people in political parties that are in the Shannon or in the Dáil, and they were speaking around childcare and stuff. And it was ever so surreal. Now, this was actually before Christmas, and my partner was on the COVID unemployment, you know. And they're all talking about babysitters and talking about their years of experience. And I'm like, oh no, my husband minds the baby. He's actually on the pandemic payment at the moment. And you know, So I take a step back and I say, what the hell? What did I just say there? You know, but it's really about being yourself, you know, that kind of way. And the people around that table probably wasn't expecting it because it was law society and, you know, it was just real, you know, that kind of way. And I really, I try to always bring in the real experience for what it's like for people, for people on the ground, you know.
Tell us all about the Shannon. How does it work?
The Shannon is a little bit different than the Dáil. You know, when legislation has to come through this, after it comes through the Shannon, after it comes through the Dáil, it has to Shannon. And really, like, senators don't have any power, you know. But the only thing that you do have is that little bit of a platform to be able to raise awareness if you want. Like sometimes, because I'm in the independent group, you know, and I'm not in a big political party, you only get like probably no more than 6 minutes, 8 minutes, or even in order of business, you get no more than 3 minutes to speak, you know. And that time is also shared along with other people who's in your group. And I'm sure many people here heard of Lynn Yuan, you know. And Lynn is a woman from Tallaght, and I work very, very closely with Lynn, and we kind of sing off the one hymn sheet, if you want, you know, kind of similar experience, because there's not that big difference of cultural experience when it comes to working class communities and traveller people, you know, even down to horses, down to way of living and stuff like that, and even in wider valley farming and things, you know. And I don't see a big difference. And Lynn and myself would sit down and have conversations, and she wouldn't feel to be a big difference either, you know, that kind of way, kind of.
I was just watched a bit on YouTube, and I watched your first address to the Shannon, and I absolutely loved how open you were about how nervous you were. You know, how do you face your fears?
See, I'll just say the Shannon is just about legislation, you know, that kind of way. There's not really big action, and you don't have extreme big powers, you know, that kind of way. So just to be clear there, you do feel like when you're born and reared in Valley Farmers and born and reared in a hot and site, you do feel that, and some of it probably is in your own head, but you do feel that you're less than everybody else in the room, you know. And like, I remember that day, my stomach was raw. I was so nervous, like I was shaking, I was sweating, and I was like, oh, like in one sense, it was so overwhelmed, like feeling that I had, you know. And even though I got nominated, one point I was like, oh fuck, what have I done? You know, am I good enough for this role? And you start questioning yourself, you know. And because the majority of people that's in the Shannon are TDs and ministers at one point in their life, and some of them have masters and doctorates in law and whatnot, you know, where, like, you know, I kind of undermined myself for a few months, but now that attitude has changed, and saying, you know, be real to yourself, Eileen, and be real to the community that you come from, and be real to your life experience, you know, because I have something that other people in there don't have, and that their life experience and some of those real life experience, even around, you know, seeing people I love very dearly suffering with addiction, you know, mental health, and many different other issues as well. And again, to be able to experience that on the ground, like, you know, and again, if you never experience discrimination because you're a member of the traveller community, look at the prejudice and discrimination you face because you're from a working class area, do you know?
How do you think you can best use your role to influence policy in terms of access and education and the supports that you'd need to stay in education?
Okay, that's actually a really big question. Access. We all have access access to education, and every child, like, you know, that's kind of a given that we can all access education. It's about being able to be successful within the education system, you know, and we can all make it to primary school without any kind of because we listen to our parents or our guardians or siblings, you know. But when you're coming into the teen of 13, 14, 15, you're finding your own voice, you know, and then there's a lot of pressures, peer pressure, and I don't care what community you come from, it happens in all communities, you know. And I think for many young travelers, it's that next, like when you're 16, 17, for many a case, young people see marriage as adulthood. Do you know how you see you know, you see young people from the general population would be going to university, you know, at the age 18, 17, 19. But unfortunately, young travellers don't have that opportunity, you know, to be able to be successful within the education system, and don't have the supports. And how would you change policy? I'm on the education committee, and changing policy is not something that you do overnight, but it's around really listening to the communities and the NGOs that work with travellers, you know. And many pieces of legislation have been changed over the years, you know. But again, it's really about being able to support, like if we look at accommodation issues within the traveller community, like, you know, it's very tough when you have to go over when you wake up in the morning in a freezing cold house or caravan, and you have to go over across the road to get water out of your grandparents' house or out of your auntie's house or something, you know. And they all have impacts in being successful within the system too, you know. And again, there's every single child, like no matter what community they come from, would have different needs, you know. And it's really about meeting the young person where they're at, and, you know, like getting involved in school activities as well. Like I was on the debating team. I never got to do debating publicly, but I was still on the team, and I loved the debating, you know. And I had the opportunity to be able to go, and for many, like even from all communities, you know, education is not for all, Karen, you know. And getting the big is not for every person, and getting the first class honours in the leaving cert, that's not for all of us, you know. Like sometimes school is just about completion again. And right now I'm looking at changing the pressures of the leaving cert for young people, you know, because the leaving cert shouldn't define who you are as a person, you know. Like I had somebody come up to me a few months ago and say to me, actually a nun that used to teach me in the school, and she came up and said to me, you know, Eileen, if I judged you on your result from your leaving cert, I wouldn't imagine that you'd be a senator, you know. And right now it's really about reforming the leaving cert, and to that, because that there will create more opportunities for young people as well to be able to go on and get jobs, and if that one exam doesn't define who they are, you know.
I completely agree with you. Tell me about the supports that you received when you were in education that enabled you to stay in education.
Hello, Carter. Sorry, I'm Aisha. Should I be on this?
Yeah, hiya, Stephen. You're very welcome.
Sorry, I'm only at the jumping on there. Sorry about
not
that.
Not at all. Nice to see you.
Just get out of the shower, Stephen.
Sorry, Eileen, we interrupted you.
What's your question again, Karen? Sorry.
I was asking you, what supports did you have that enabled you to stay in education?
This the supports again. I had the opportunity to go to the Candle Youth Service, to go to the Base Youth Service, and the BYS as well, you know, and got involved, and obviously had support in the homework club, being part of the school if you want. And then again, like many traveller parents, my mother and father valued education, and while my brothers or sisters completed third level education, like one of my brothers, he went he went the whole way to junior cert, but didn't even complete the junior cert, but he went to school until he was nearly 16, and that was very big going back in the years. And again, I had in secondary school, and I didn't even think I'd ever complete it. But again, it gave me something to do. I wanted to be in school when I was 17 because it got me out the house for the day.
Yeah.
And again, I believe it kept me away from drugs and from drinking stuff,
It's absolutely amazing what you've achieved to date. But I'm sure you've come up against challenges along the way. How did you overcome them? Tell us about some of the challenges and how you overcame them.
Well, obviously, burying my mother would have to be the biggest challenge, and like the biggest, if you want, horriblest thing that I've ever had to go through. And that was from the age of 10. Then I was in a really bad car crash that, I suffered really bad but I had to get a lot of operations, attending orthopedic hospital for some of the injuries, so they would have been two major obstacles, two major things to deal with, and again, I didn't even realize my mother was dead until I was 16, and I know people may find that very hard to understand, but again, I didn't accept it at the time. I accepted it 6 years later, which was very tough for my mental health and for my well-being. And again, I just got counselling, seek support, kept going in school, kept going, just 90% of success is showing up, and that there was some of that. And then of course the accident and stuff was, when you're going through something, even though it seems so big, now I look back at that and it's only about this size, and I say it was part of the journey, and like obviously I would have been refused from nightclubs, and obviously I would have I'm going to say obviously because it happens to a lot of people, it happens from a lot of people from the travelling community, but also from working class areas. I often went to a door of a nightclub with somebody, say, from Ballyfarmers, and once or twice I'd get in, but the person from Ballyfarmer wouldn't get in, because that class, like, you're going up and you probably have a I don't know, a bomber jacket on, or a certain pair of shoes that identifies you as being a working class person, or you're from the likes of, say, Crumlin, Ballyfarmers, and it's actually very strange, to experience that as well. So racism, discrimination, all of that I did experience, and to say that, like, sometimes it can have a big impact on your self-esteem and your way of thinking, your attitude and stuff. And again, I've got counselling many a time and seek support and talking out and stuff like that. And in one sense, Karen, I think I'm very lucky, extremely lucky to be the young person that came out of the other side of so much trauma, if you want, And then, like, again, as I would say to people, and I, like, last February when I was going for the elections, and like last year, if you want, it's really about believing in yourself so much that the people around you don't have the choice only to do the same, And then, I don't know if you ever heard the term fake it until you make it,
Yes.
And like, he often sat in places and, you wouldn't have a clue what was going on, and neither would about 40 or 50% of people in the room, but nobody else knows that, And it's about educating yourself. If you don't know, ask the question. you know, and no question is a stupid question. It's
Mhm.
really about getting involved and following your passion that you have in your gut, you know, because we all have a passion, and let that be caring for people, let it be writing a book, you know, like I think any man or woman could write a book about Ballyfermot, you know, and about their experience in Ballyfermot. I'm sure 90% of it is positive, and you've got at least the other percentage that isn't positive, you know, that kind of way. So like, you know, but it's not easy. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, go on and do anything you want to be, because you can be anything you want to be once you put your mind to it. That's not true. You know, you need to be financially stable before you can. You know,
Yeah.
you need to have the money to go on to university. You need to be entitled to the grants and stuff to be able to do that, you know. So I don't believe when they say, oh, you can be anything you want to be once you put your mind to it. I think that's a myth. I think,
Yeah.
like, you know, once you had the tools to go on and be what you want to be, then it can make the journey less challenging, if you want.
Yeah, you're right there, young one. What's your name? Sorry.
Eileen.
Eileen. Hell yeah, I'm Stephen. Sorry for jumping in there. But you are right. When people say you can do anything and you can be anything you want, yes, you probably can, but you need the finance and all that kind of stuff. You're right.
Yeah, 100%.
I have a question from Grania for you, Eileen. She says, it sounds like you've encountered a lot of positive people who really believed in you. How important was this in keeping you on track towards realizing your goals?
Like, those positive people are young people from Ballyfermot. They're like, you know, I mixed with, did you ever hear good, bad and ugly? Like, I've mixed with people that was up here from where I was in the world, people that was down there where I was in the world at the same level as me. For me, I don't see anybody above me, and I don't see anybody underneath me. You know, that kind of way. And I think it's really important that, you know, that we see ourselves, how we see ourselves is what it's important. It's not really about how other people see us. Now,
Yeah.
look, I'm not preaching here, and like what you go to mass on a Sunday and you hear a preacher, but I had to learn those methods, you know what I mean? It wasn't something that I did overnight. And, you know, like, I could go to at least 3 houses in Ballyfermot, like, anytime, day, morning, noon or night, and, you know, if I needed support, I'd get it. The same way with some great people that I met in my journey, likes of Damien Pilo, Lorraine, and then there's Dr. Hannah McGinley, who's a traveller woman, and I've looked at how much she has achieved in her life and some of the challenges that, you know, that many traveller women have to face, and, you know, they go on to do amazing stuff, but that's not recognised, you know.
Yeah. If you'd got the job in the nursing home, how different do you think your life would be now?
I don't know. I probably, if I got, that's actually a really good question.
That's
I don't know.
Grania's question.
I always believe that you'll end up to where you're meant to be if you have the passion to do it, you know. And again, like, it's really about, see, when you're open-minded and when you open up your eyes to the world, like, you can never close them back again, do you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't get that job for a reason. Now, at the time, I couldn't understand the reason. Don't get me wrong, I was very hurt and annoyed, and it's something that, again, it's something that made me stronger, you know?
Yeah. Activism work, what was the appeal for you?
Was, you know, sometimes we can be very naive and think we're going to change the world overnight. And I was one of those people. And that's not how the world works. And you can't change the world by yourself, you know. So it's really about changing it one person at a time, one step at a time, you know, and doing it in a very respectful manner, because not everybody has the same ideology as you. Not everybody is singing up. Not everybody is at the one level you're at or know the experience that you've been through. But it's about saying those in a very light way, in a nice manner. And if a person has an opinion, it's around respecting that person's opinion, but listening to that person, you know, and not to shut a person down who don't agree with their opinion. But yeah, it's just been a very strange journey. Like, if you had have even said to me this time last year, like, do you think you'll make it? My answer would be, you know something, Karen, I'm going to fake it, and if I make it, I make it, and if I don't, I don't. There's nothing I can do about it, you know. And really, to achieve it was just mighty, you know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
But also, not just for being a member of the traveller community, but also being a member of Ballyfermot, like, you know what I mean, being wider Ballyfermot and stuff like that. And again, like, I think young people in Ballyfermot should be valued, you know, and they should be like, money should be invested. So their education should be invested in, and young people should have the opportunities to go on, if they wanted to go on to be nurses, that they should have that opportunity to be so, you know, that kind of way. And again, like, you know, none of us are like, you know, I don't believe there's such a word as even equality and you treat everybody equally, because that's a load of nonsense, you know. Like, no two people are the same, like, you know, no two people are the same. And it's really about meeting people where they're at and valuing people's beliefs as well, you know, that kind of way. Like, we're all different, but we should be treated as equal worth in the world. We all bring something different and unique, so it's important that we, like, and again, you know, when I remember when I was 18 and doing a conference in Trinity College, one of my friends said to me, if you're not better than everybody else in the room, just remember you're just as good, you know. And then, like, he would have said to me another time, about 3-4 years ago, and I went for a job interview and I didn't get it. He said to me, you can fail so very often, but you're not a failure until you give up, you know. And sometimes, Karen, the easiest thing to do is give up, you know. And sometimes when you can't, like, I don't give a damn who you are. If you're a 50-year-old man, an 18-year-old man, a 30-year-old woman, it doesn't matter. We all sometimes lose hope, not only in the world, but we can lose hope in ourselves, you know, that kind of way. And again, the impacts of that has been, as a young person, your own life experience, and nobody can ever take that away from you, you know. But it's really about kind of finding that light and giving yourself a reason. Like, I don't mean to sound depressing or anything, but for me, it's really finding that reason. And, you know, complete school, complete this year in college, complete the 2 years in this college, and then go on and complete 3 years in another college, because, you know, it was just trying to keep out of trouble. That was kind of what I wanted. That's why I kept staying in college and kept going and going and going, because I knew it's very easy for anybody to go down the wrong path, you know, and that doesn't matter about your age or your gender or anything else, you know.
So you talked about failures, okay, and disappointments. How do you pick yourself up and go back at it again?
Oh, well, stay at home for a day or two and cry your eyes out, or, you know, feel sorry for yourself and think that, oh, why did this happen to me, blah, blah, blah. It's so normal and it's so natural, and I believe that we all should do that, or something, like, you know, and be able to feel our emotions. And then, you know, I'm a mother now for the last 15 months, and you just, you know, like, little steps. If you only get back up after a week of relaxing, or a week, relax after the failure. If you relax for 2 days or a week, whatever, and then you start getting yourself back into a routine of saying, even every evening, go for that little walk, you know, and say, like, I don't know, see, it's different for every person, you know, and I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, we can all do it, blah, 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 because people are at very different spaces. But you always remember there's a reason to keep going, you know.
In terms of driving positive change in society, what one thing can we as citizens do that would make a difference?
One thing. See, that's actually a really big question in itself. But the one thing is to, listen to each other.
Mhm.
I would really say that, and to be open to be educated, Like,
Mhm.
'cause I know myself, I'm a traveller woman here today, and I'm sure that some people in this room probably has never met a member of the travel community, only for what they see in TV,
I
or
Yeah.
what.
wouldn't say that. I would say everybody has met one of the traveling people.
And if you just let me finish,
Sorry,
and
sorry.
other people who has met a member of the travel community was probably, haven't asked questions or probably felt, oh, this is what they're like, that kind of way. And again, I just think it's really important that we have open and honest conversations. Stephen, you were saying.
Yeah, I think, well, I've met loads of traveling people, do you know what I mean? I know loads of traveling people as well. No, it is. I know people can be discriminated against them and all, but everybody's just the same. As you said, there's nobody better than anybody else, and you're not better than anybody else, and I'm not better than anybody else. I'm just the same, I'm not in the same. I'm not in the same situations as everybody else. But, I'm yeah. I'm a 50-year-old man. Do you know what I mean? And my education is not great. But I took a job there last week, and it's cleaning, doing a bit of cleaning in a shop doing stores at 7:30 in the morning, like till 10:30.
Mhm.
But you don't need education to get into that.
But as Eileen says, it's that sense of achievement, it's that sense of finishing something. You get up, you go to work, you finish your day's work. So, it's that sense
Oh
of
yeah, I have to say it's
pride in what
brilliant
you
for me.
achieve.
It got me. It's getting me out of the bed. It's getting me head in a better place, and it's like it's starting the whole. It's starting the whole day good for me. You know what I mean?
And,
It is.
and,
It's very good.
and again, it's really about valuing yourself and to see that you're not just the cleaner, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
As you
yeah,
say,
yeah.
you're an older man who's had probably a shitloads of experience in the world, and really it's not about like it's genuinely not about the jobs that we do. It's not about where we are or where we're at, and it's not about educate, like, 'cause the leaving cert again don't
Mhm,
define who we are. We define who we are as an individual. Like I have full blown dyslexia, and
mhm.
again, I can either leave that overrule my life, or I can be in control of that. That
Of
kind of
course,
way.
yeah. You choose how you feel about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You to choose. Like it's like getting up in the morning. You can either choose it to be a bad day or a good day. You put yourself in what humor you want to be in. Do you know what I mean? I know something can happen that can contribute to that, but as you said, you know what I mean. You just get up and you get on with it. Oh, I'm happy to be doing what I'm doing at the moment. You know what I mean? It's setting me up. It sets me up in the day for a good day, and it's setting me up for other things that are progressing at the minute for me. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm happy enough to be doing this. I know you never done any junior cert or leaving cert or that like that.
I have some other questions from the group,
Yeah, go
Eileen.
ahead.
So Joe is asking me, what career progressions other than education would you like to make more accessible to the members of the traveling community?
Yeah. I would like, the apprenticeship courses. There is a lot of apprenticeship that young traveller men can take part in, and obviously women as well. So it's around making those accessible for everybody. So that's what I'm looking at the minute as well, or just around apprenticeships, but also, like, somebody might have a specific interest, just for example, in history,
Yes.
and that they do that one module and they're able to focus on just say history, for example, and instead of going into 12 other subjects or 9 other subjects, that, like, if people have one interest, that they can focus on that one specific interest.
Carl is asking, can you ever see yourself in any other line of work?
to be very honest with you, Carol, I didn't understand that this line of work that I'm in now would be such a big axe. And what I mean by that, you know, you could have 15 people, and now not just from the traveller community, from other ethnic minority groups as well, that would email you every single day and thinking that you could change the world if you want, you know. And again, you've got very little power in the role that you're doing, awareness, and a part of being able to change some policies and legislations going forward, you know. And it looks like an easy job, but it isn't. It's actually a very tense role to have, you know. And while I'm very privileged, and I think every TD should look, and every senator should look at their privilege, you know, like, you know, you're getting paid a good wage. You like, you know, like, so let's not bullshit about it, you know. So again, like for me personally, and I know that not every senator and not every politician in the Dáil in their office have the same level of work, say myself and Lynn Yuan would have, you know, that kind of way, because of the communities that we come from, you know, and the level of work there. And so it's been very enjoyable, and I'm very privileged to be in it. But yeah, I will say it's very tough. I wouldn't like to go on to be a TD or anything else, you know. I just think really getting me. Yeah.
You wouldn't like to go on and be a TD, no?
No, and I know people probably find that very strange, but the thing is, I'm in there to change legislation, you know, and in the Shannon I can do that because, you know, in all this work we have to mind our own mental health and our own health as well, you know. And sometimes, like, you know, people, like, it opened up my eyes getting this role as well. Like, people are in desperate need of homes, they're in desperate need of financial needs, like not just from the traveller community, like from a lot of communities, you know. And all that can all have an impact on you, you know. And like being, I've never really thought about it, to be honest, Carl, but I wouldn't see myself in the next 5 years going on to be a TD. And then again, it's very tough to get elected sometimes if you're not from a political party, and if you're an independent, say, and you're open about your identity and stuff like that, you know. So, like, you know, sometimes I'm like, so no, I couldn't see myself going any, no. I don't know about people.
So in saying that, what's next for Senator Eileen Flynn?
Do you know, it's right now for me, it's actually raising awareness. It's bringing in, looking at bringing in a good hate crime legislation. It's looking at trying to, I work very closely with the likes of Anthony Flynn, who's a county councillor. I work very closely with Dottie Doolin, with Angus O'Snuddick, with other politicians in Ballyfarm, you know. So just to say that, and really, every positive change that we can bring about to the likes of some areas in Ballyfarmer will be very welcome, you know. So really, like, it's not, and I always say I'm not a one-trick pony, you know, that kind of way, because I'm very interested in class economics as well, like the discrimination that people from working class areas experience on a daily basis because they're from working class areas, or because they dress a certain way, you know, that kind of way. And again, like, I'd like to bring in some good legislation around mental health and well-being, and have better mental health services for everybody, you know. Again, I don't give a damn what your gender is or who you are. At some point in your life, you're going to struggle a little bit with your mental health, you know. So yeah.
Definitely, right.
So being in the public eye, does that bring its own pressures?
Yeah, because, you know, for me, Karen, like, I was sitting at a table last week, and, you know, a lot of ordinary people are SNAs, you know, that kind of way. And again, I was qualified SNA myself, and I tried to get SNAs added in up the list for the vaccinations, you know.
Yeah.
And then I heard other politicians taking the credit for it, blah, blah, blah. And as I said to my partner was, you know, I don't give a damn who takes the credit for the work once it gets done, you know. And some of the experience is very positive. And then, I don't know, I'm one of these people that if one thing was negative, I focus on that one thing that's negative. And I know it's probably the more human thing to do.
Yeah.
So it's really about kind of letting go of the negative crap that you see in social media, because you're always going to see it. And there's some people's minds that you're never going to be able to change. But you focus on the people's minds you can't change. And really, it's not about even, you know, like every single one of us is prejudiced. You know, I don't care. You don't say to me you're not prejudiced, because you are. It's so human. Like we judge people every day. We might see somebody walking up the street and say, oh geez, I don't like her, or I don't like him, or I don't like them shoes, or you know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
But if you were to stop a person and say, I don't like you because you're black, you know, that becomes racist, that becomes hurtful to a person, you know. So I think it's okay to be prejudiced, because we're all prejudiced, but I think if we act out in our prejudice, I think it can really hurt an individual or a group of people, you know.
Tell me something, and this is just a personal, I'm just curious. You've been all over the media, you've been interviewed everywhere. Who's been your favorite interviewer to date?
Favorite interview. I liked I don't know, I liked Tommy Tiernan. He was fine, but a bit strange.
What was strange about it?
He's just so serious, like, you know, and I think that comes from, with Tommy, I think it comes from because he's separating the two roles, as the comedian and as the interviewer. And I think that's where it comes from.
Were you on his show?
I was, a few weeks ago,
Oh, I missed that.
Has anybody else in the group got any questions they'd like to ask of Eileen before we let her go?
Yeah, I do. What do you think about the police, like when you're walking down the road and they just pull you and get out of the car and they strip search you on the road for nothing? Like,
again, that's a class issue. I don't know who asked that question, but that is a class issue.
Stephen,
you wouldn't, Stephen, you wouldn't see them going into Blackrock doing that, you know.
It just happens right now. It just happened that I cycle everywhere, you know, and I cycle everywhere, so the police don't see me. They haven't seen me in the area in a long time. But then one day last month, I got a puncture on my bike, so I said, I'll go for a walk. And when I went for a walk, they see me, and they got out of the car and they made me take me bleeding tracksuit bottoms down and stuff and all that, you know what I mean? And then people going by were looking at me, and then my daughter was at our front door with the baby and saying, I wonder what's going on with me dad, you know? It's because we'd have been known from them from before, a long time ago. I'm out of trouble a long time. But because they know you, I don't know. I don't think it's fair that they just search on the street, and you know, it makes everybody else look at you different that's walking by, because then they're thinking, I wonder what he's up to, you know?
Like, you know, I had the opportunity to work with both women and men in prison from all communities, if you want. And basically, you do the crime, you should be able to, when you're set free, you should be able to live free, and you should be able to live that a free life. Now, Lynn Yuan is doing a lot of work at present, and I'm doing taking part in some of it around the criminal justice courts and you know, criminal justice law as well. And again, that has a big impact on working class people. Like, you know, probably going down to a lower DC road, and sometimes it could be at the Spar shop, and you see guards searching 15-year-olds. Most of the time, to be blunt, it's men that are searching, you know. And again, you know, you don't see it in Docky, you don't see it in Depot, but again, it's something that we need to. I'd love to work on. I would absolutely love to work on, because my experience of, especially for guards in Ballyfermot, when you do ring them with a problem or with an issue, they like one time I had a guard in Ballyfermot, and I'm very open about this. I've said this 100 times. The sergeant actually in 2017 came on to the site, and he was so cheeky, like he just put his face out through the window and said, "Just pack of scruffy knackers," right? And I went down to try and challenge it, and it couldn't be challenged, and the guards investigating the guards and stuff. And then if somebody is having a mental health episode, they don't send out people who are trained in mental health, they send out guards, and again, that all needs to be changed, and that's all something I'm looking at going forward. And it's not just saying it in hearsay or here and there and whatever else, because there are all policies that's coming up, Stephen, just to say that, like, wasn't interested in the work, I wouldn't say it for the sake of saying it, but I would love to see people in the likes of Crumlin, Ballyfermot, Clondalkin, and especially men being treated with a little bit of respect when it comes to the guards,
I have a question from Carl. He's asking, in your current position as senator, have you ever felt undermined because of your background?
Yeah, when I first started out, I did. I felt I was, that everyone else in the room was better than me. Then I had one senator, a man, that said to me that I was a token seat, that I, that the Taoiseach just put me forward because I was a member of the traveller community, and also I was a woman, and again, I just shared with the group of missing out by a vote and a half, that kind of way.
Yeah.
So I don't believe while the Taoiseach's nominations, obviously he gets to choose, and it is tokens in that sense. So let's be honest there.
Yeah.
But I believe I got the seat because of the work that was put into it.
Did you put him right?
Oh, I did, yeah.
Okay.
I tell them it took 5 men to climb over me. 2 of them was from Fianna Fáil, 2 was from Fianna Gael, and 1 was himself.
Very good.
Karen, can I ask a question?
Of course. Hi, Dermot.
Stuart.
Stuart, sorry.
I was just wondering, have you heard anything about the rollout of the vaccine?
Yeah, they've started the rollout of the vaccine. I can send on a link to the priority list. Now, obviously, they're finishing up on the frontline workers. So it's actually a strange rollout. I don't know, it's just really, really strange, but I can send on the latest information to you, Karen, and you can share it to the rest of the group. Is that okay?
That's wonderful. Thank you.
We say something, please?
Yes, hi, Shane.
Yeah, how's it going, Eileen? I just want to say you're an inspiration to everybody, especially me. It was great listening to you today. You brought a lot back from me with addiction and all that. I'm an alcoholic and an addict, and I work hard on myself every day. I'm over 6 months clean and sober. But as you were saying, like, addiction brought me homelessness and everything else, in addiction centres and everything like that. But I was in the treatment centre there, and my mum passed away, and I went out of the treatment centre, and she was cremated and all, and I went back into it and all. Because I wanted this, I had enough pain and enough misery. And what you were saying there, like, about your eyes opened and your mindset and all, like, once you have that, see everything, like, everything you were saying there is right, and it brought a lot back to me. If you have the fire in your belly and you have the want, the willingness and the power to do it, you can, you have, like, the tools and all that you were saying. Like, it's all true what you were saying, because I have that at the moment. I heard you saying there, like, you were an SNA and all that. I'm doing that in college at the moment, through the thanks to the McAlbert place. Like, I have a lot of support and all that around me and all, but the hard work has to come from me, and like, all the want, and like, and I have that I have that fire in my belly and all that. I want to do it, but I have a choice whether to do it or not to do it, and I choose to do it. So, like, I suffered with my mental health and all that, depression. I'm on antidepressant tablets and all that, but things, your pathway is, as you said, whatever is thrown in front of you, that's what you have to take. And like, my pathway through life was horrendous looking back, but I am where I am now. Thanks to my higher power or somebody looking out for me and my hard work and the support of everybody that I'm at getting. And I know if I just need to keep doing like what I'm doing, and I will get there. And if I fail, I fail. At least I tried. Like you said there, you completed your courses, and it's all about completion. You're right there taking part and getting it complete. Like everything you said there to me made, well, to everybody on the group, but to me, it made perfect sense. And I want to thank you. You are such an inspiration.
Lots of positive feedback coming through in the chat, actually. Eileen saying you're very real and it's great to listen to you, and thanks very much. Anybody else got anything that they'd like to ask of Eileen?
I just want to say to Shane that, you know, again, it's like some days are really shit days. And it's about really being able to feel those days. Like, you know, I'm not like an academic or not a counsellor or anything like that. I was even took back by the whole, you know, the vaccine question, because right now, for me, I know there's a rollout of the vaccine, if that makes any sense, and I'm trying to get people put into certain categories, but there's not even enough vaccine out. Like, you know, you need to have the vaccine in the country before we can vaccinate people. So they're talking about a rollout, but yet we're numbers of the vaccine. Does that make any sense? But just going back to what Shane was saying, like, you know, I remember one time somebody saying to me, Shane, that, you know, life is like riding a bicycle up some kind of a mountain or something, you know, and basically you stop, you get punctured, you might have to change stuff and the bike, but you'll eventually get to your destination, you know. And Grania was asking some questions earlier on about how do you do it, and again, it's about really looking at the reasons why I need to do it, you know. And I always believe that, like, and I know this might be really stupid to some people, but I always have a picture with my mother with me. And I always believed that when she left at the age, when I was 10 years of age, that, you know, that she was with me, and that I felt that, you know, I'd always kind of take her advice, you know what I mean? Even though obviously she wasn't telling me what to do or not to do, but I'd kind of go with the gush and say, what would she do, you know? And sometimes people who die belong to us can be closer to us in death than what they are to us when they're alive, you know. So just to say that, and I know it's not easy, like, for, again, it's not, and you will have and continue to have really shit days, but it's about remembering how far you came, you know.
Thank you. Anybody else before we let Eileen go? No, all talked out, Eileen.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Stephen.
What is she? What does she do?
Eileen sits on the Shannon. She's a senator.
All right, I don't know. Stand off. What's that mean?
I'll tell you, Stephen, can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
A few years ago, I didn't have a clue what a senator was, right?
Yeah.
And basically, it's you have the upper house and the lower house of it's like the. Do you ever hear of the House of Lords in England?
Right,
Probably a bad example, but it's similar to the Lords. But the only thing is, you don't have to be related to any of the politicians or anything to get a seat in it. So we don't have as much power as the likes of the TDs and the ministers would have, if you know what I mean. We're only there to bring in some legislation, and that's kind of our job. Now, look, it's a good paid job, and sometimes it does carry a lot of responsibility, not sometimes, all of the time, for the ones that does put in the work, you know.
Fair play to you. I have to give it to you. I have to say fair play to you, know. To come from, I know, to come from where you come from and land a job like that. Obviously, it was the work you put in, you know what I mean? Going back to school and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Well, having the confidence is probably one of the most important things.
And again, I don't think confidence have anything to do with it. Sometimes you can be really upset inside, but yet you know.
Well, being consistent and all that, you know what I mean? That you're doing it, fair play, Joe. You know, that's what you're consistent. You go in every day and you do what you have to do. Do you know what I mean? So fair play, yeah. I'm happy for you.
Thanks, Stephen, very much. You know, my mother used to have a saying, and it was always something that I was reared with, and I'd probably say it a lot at the time as well, but it always hits home for people, no matter, again, it doesn't matter about your gender or background or anything.
Yeah.
You know, nobody knows the shoe is cutting them, only the person that's wearing them.
Weird
You
and
know,
true. Yeah.
and I think that's really important, because everybody has their own journey, you know,
Yeah.
and it's really not about judging each other. And
Yeah.
sometimes we're not looking for handouts, you know. Some people say, oh, travelers are looking for handouts, and the people from this area are only looking for handouts around the dole, blah blah blah. I
Yeah.
know about it. Some people wouldn't choose to be on the dole, only that they can't get jobs, you know. But anyway, it's not about giving a hand out. It's actually about giving a hand up, you know. And I think it's about really lifting each other up, and you know, like I like, again, I didn't have this dream that I was going to wake up one day and be a senator or anything like that. But I'm glad to be able to achieve it, not just for me, but for Ballyfarmers, for my own community, for, you know, it's that little bit of a positive change in society, you know.
But what, if you don't mind me asking, like you and your group that were growing up together, the people that you grew up with, how come you decided to go that way? You know, go and get that kind of a job and all that. Why did you decide that? How did you do that?
I don't have a fucking clue. I just went to school. I went to college. I pepperlit, as they like to say, and got involved at, like, you know, if you have a passion for, say,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Had you got a passion for that kind of work, that job, is that what you wanted to do?
I got involved as activism. I got involved in activism when I was over 10 years ago. I was 21 or 22 years of age, and again, I was involved.
Activism. What does that mean, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I got involved in the local youth service, in a youth farm, basically.
Right.
Like activism, when I talk about it, it's an old posh word for protesting on the streets around, say, for example, Stephen, homelessness, you know.
Right, definitely.
I would do a lot of activism work around homelessness and trying to support people. Like, I was involved in a Paula house, you know. I would have been in a Paula house that time, when a Paula house was from, oh, you were, there's seen someone else.
Larissa, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I just think, like, again, that's what an activist is. It's somebody that gives a damn about something. Yeah, or even about something, and that could be housing issues, it could be insurance issues, it could be I don't know, maybe taxes too high for people for people's cars or whatever, and you could be passionate about that, and you go out and you campaign against it. You know, that's like, it can be anything, you know.
Right, happy days. No, that's good. It's good. It's good to see. I'm not like discriminating. It's good to see people like yourself from the traveling community, you know, coming out and doing your job. Do you know what I mean? So I just want to congratulate you and say fair play to you. Yeah?
Thank you.
And I wish there was more like you in the world, you know.
I have a comment from Carl, keep being yourself. I have a comment from somebody else saying, delighted that we have people like you in power. And I have a question from Joe to say, what were your main sources of learning that got you to where you are with your mental health and your emotional maturity?
I went to counselling, and then, you know, obviously put little methods in place for myself. I started walking in 2012 and really would walk like 3 miles, 5 kilometers every single day, and just found the passion then, loved it walking, you know. Yeah.
Okay, any questions from anybody else before we let Eileen go? No. Eileen, thanks a million for taking the time out of your busy week to come and spend some time with us.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been really enjoyable.
Thanks so much, Eileen.
I very much enjoyed it, and again, I would have loved some more questions, but look, hopefully in a few months we can meet again, and you know, maybe in a more private session where if people do have any questions and want to feel that they can ask, you know, I think it's important that we
Can I answer one question? Are you here? Where do you, like, not where exactly do you live, but do you live in the travel community site still, or have we got, have we got
Number 7.
I got married 2 years ago to a Donegal man, to a settled man from Donegal, and I'm living in Donegal, but I stay in Laborie 3 days a week.
Very nice, fair play, yeah.
You'll have to
Because-
come down and have lunch with us then when COVID
Yeah,
is over.
when we open back up, get her down, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to come down.
Same
and
That'd be brilliant.
Sorry about this. That
No,
girl you were talking about, is she from Pala, that other senator? What's her name?
Yes.
Louisa.
Lynn,
What's her name?
Lynn.
Yeah.
Ruan.
And, you know, I actually
Yeah.
think it's really important to keep the person who you are, you know, because like, you know, for me, I always think it's important to go back to Laborie. For those, if I'm in Dublin, I stay in Laborie, because for me, that's who I am, you know, that's
Yeah.
where I was born and reared, in a house. I was born from Laborie, you know, and I like, again, it's not, it's up to you to make your own, like, you know, I don't give a damn to a certain extent that people say to me, oh, you're this and you're that, and I get out nasty, out shitty messages from people, you know, and
Yeah.
I would actually say to myself, it's not about what that person thinks of me, it's about what I think of myself, you know.
That's good, yeah. They're only jealous anyway.
Yeah. So I look forward to meeting you all, genuinely do, and thanks for having me, and I hope that I didn't give anyone a headache.
Not at
Oh,
all.
it
No,
was
it was
brilliant.
absolutely
You're an
lovely talking to you.
inspiration.
Thanks
Okay.
very much, Eileen.